Welcome to the New Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets. You'll hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and writers that cover the NFL daily. The New Orleans Saints podcast starts right now. Here's your host, Erin Summers.
Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. I'm Erin Summers alongside Luke McCown, former Saints quarterback and an analyst that steps in for us during the combine training camp. And we're happy to have you here, Luke. How are you doing?
I'm doing real well, especially after the win yesterday.
Exactly. A 17-7 win at Carolina, first NFC South victory, first win for quarterback Tyler Shough, and second win of the season for the Saints going into a bye week. So definitely good momentum going forward. We want to look at the game against the Panthers first before we dive into the overall season and what's ahead. I mean, all three phases of the game, the Saints played extremely well in. I think it's the first time we've really seen them play complementary football like that. We had a season high 388 yards of offense. The defense held the Panthers to just 7 points, which was a season low for the Panthers, 175 total yards. Defense had 2 takeaways, the field goal blocked. So there was a lot of good that happened in this game. Luke, what stood out to you the most about the way the Saints were able to get this win?
Yeah, I think the first thing that jumps out is third down. Like, we're going to take Tyler's performance and amplify it, right? Because rookie quarterback, second round pick, first 2 games. You know, what's different, right? What do we see from him that we weren't seeing offensively from Spencer? There's going to be all that conjecture, right? But the big things were taking care of the football and converting third down. Now, while the scoring doesn't necessarily reflect a increase from what we've done all year long, we're still hovering around 15.5 points a game. That's got to go up, obviously. But the big difference was, how we performed on third down, 8 of 17 on third down. And those are the things that can help a young quarterback come out on top, right? Mm-hmm. Those are the things that, 122 rush yards, right? As opposed to last week's game against the Rams, 57 yards rushing, 2 of 9 on third down. There's little things that will tell the story for a young quarterback in terms of wins and losses that don't always show up in his stat line. And so you look at how the team played around him. You look at the way that the defense was able to get off the field. Theirs was quite opposite. The Panthers were, I think, 2 of 9, maybe 3 of 9 on third down. So they were able to get off the field on third down, which equates to good field position for your offense usually, a better starting position, starting a drive. And so all of those things add up for a young quarterback, for an offense that's still trying to find its rhythm, trying to find its happy place as far as running the football and third down conversions. I always said this, that the best way to convert on third down is to convert on first and second down. Right? And so when you're good on first and second down, man, third down becomes a lot easier. And that starts with running the football. Everybody knows you run the football first and 10, second and 1 to 6. That's where the majority of the runs come in the NFL. And so when you're able to run the football effectively first and second down, you set yourself up on third down, especially for a young quarterback. You set yourself up to at the end of the day, be favorable in that position, which is a big metric in regards to wins and losses.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned looking at his stat line and maybe not necessarily everything that he did being summarized in that. When you look at the way that he moved in the pocket and extended plays, the poise that he had, his decision making, I mean, he threw 2 balls over 50 yards, but then he did fit several into tight windows. He was really good at getting the ball out to the perimeter, outside of the numbers, had success. So you weren't allowing for your the offense to really be put in bad positions for turnovers and things like that. What did you see in terms of just his game management?
Yeah, he seemed very poised. And I think that's the stats are going to be what they are. He's going to have his ups and downs. He's a rookie quarterback. But when his first 2 games come on the road as a starter, right, and last week against the best team in the NFL probably right now in the Rams. And so watching how he carries himself, how he handles the interception last week, how he handles the pressure that I can think of two in particular that they keep showing on ESPN in the highlights. The touchdown to Juwan where he rolls to the left and pulls up and makes a great throw, right? So how he handled the pocket, to your point, how he handled the pocket and the presence of mind to keep his eyes down the field, 2 hands on the ball, all the little things that us quarterback people look at and go, he's got it under control, right? That doesn't mean there's not going to be mistakes or missed reads, but he's got the basics under control and it's not overwhelming for him. And so those are the big things that when you start breaking down his performance, wanting to see how he manages the huddle, how he manages the game clock, right? That's a big deal. How he manages crowd noise, how he manages backed up, how he manages red zone, all the different things. So far, he's done very well in those areas.
Speaking of managing clock, the Saints had the ball with about 7 minutes to go in the game. And you're like, all right, do they have a long drive in them? Can they go ahead and seal the win by not allowing the Panthers an opportunity? And the Saints did that.
Right.
When you see that type of execution in just his second game, it's just his first week or second week now running with the ones.
Right.
You have different people in front of you as far as your offensive linemen.
Yeah.
You don't have Rashid Shaheed in the game, so you're using some different receivers as well. Just the circumstances that he was presented with in this game, he really did some nice things.
Yeah, and again, the poise with which you manage those situations, like when you have a lead, a 7-minute mark in the fourth quarter turns into 4-minute offense pretty quickly. 1 or 2 first downs, and now you're in your 4-minute offense. Can I manage the emotions of, my gosh, we're going to win this game? Don't need turnovers. I got to secure the snap, make sure my center exchange is good, my exchange with the running back is good, and then the moments where I have to throw the football. Okay, I'm not forcing things. They're going to try and pressure. Understanding the moments of the game where a defense now has to light you up. They have to come after you. They have to try and force an error, and managing that situation. And it may not mean that I necessarily made a throw, but I didn't make a mistake. It may not mean that I didn't complete a 20-yard ball or whatever it was, but I didn't take a sack. Mm-hmm. Right? Those are the things that I felt like he showed his maturity. And everybody talks about it being a 26-year-old rookie or whatever it is, right? But that's a plus, right? Yeah. That's not a negative for him. That's a very good thing because he's able to handle a lot of. He's been around a lot of football. I know that, he only had one, I think, full season as a starter in college because of all the injuries or whatever. But he's been around a lot of football, and he's been around a lot of high-level football and a lot of high-level coaching. And so being able to step into those situations, take a deep breath, understand that it's not necessarily about making the best play. It's about making the right play at the end of a game to close out a win, and he did that.
Mm-hmm. How much does the Saints' commitment to the run game help also Shough having a good performance? Because it takes pressure off of the quarterback, and it's not been something the Saints have been able to do consistently yet. And they went over 100 yards in this game against the Panthers. Haven't done that since week 4 against the Bills.
Yeah, big time, right? Big time. Because now you go from feeling like you've got to throw it 30 times, 34 times, 35 times to come from behind, which has been a big issue this season, right? Playing from behind, getting behind early in a game, and then forcing yourself into maybe a situation where you don't quite have the pieces, whether it be at quarterback or on the outside, to really light people up or throwing the ball. You really got to hang your hat on your best players, your veteran players, and handing the ball off. And so it helps Tyler a ton to know that, man, it doesn't rise and fall with me. It doesn't have to anyway. Mm-hmm. There's going to be games where we're going to ask you now, hey, go win this game, 2-minute drive, we got to have it, all those things, right? But right now, while I'm getting my feet wet, man, let me feel comfortable turning around and handing the ball off. Let me feel comfortable knowing that, you know what, if I am about 500 on third down, then my defense is going to help us out on the other half of that. So it's huge. It's huge. Last week, only 57 yards rushing, right? So it's a big, big deal in being able to trust. And again, to your point, like we just lost Eric McCoy not too long ago, right, due to injury. And so there's some changes up front. But for those guys to galvanize and gel as an offensive line, which is really hard to do mid-season when you've got pieces coming in and out, for them to go into a division rival and on the road and put up 122 yards on the ground and help your young quarterback out and come out with a win, especially given the fact that the next 5 out of 8 games you have are division games. That's a big, big deal in terms of how, what it looks like going forward, for the rest of the season.
Yeah, going into this game, you were down 3 offensive linemen starters.
Yeah.
So you made the trade with Trevor Penning. He's out. Talia Seifuaga was out with injury. And then you're dealing with Luke Fortner, who's done a really good job at center.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of variables just up front that Tyler and the line had to deal with communication-wise. And they did a really good job sticking with the game plan, continuing to go back to the run. And I think I liked that in terms of the play calling as well.
Right.
Alvin Kamara goes for 83 yards on the ground, but he gets involved also in the passing game. We see the same with Devin Neal. Taysom Hill gets involved. And then the wide receivers. Chris Olave goes over 100 yards for the first time. He had a great game and a touchdown. And you use your tight ends with Jawan Johnson, 92 yards, 4 of 4, and a touchdown for him as well. I liked the versatility in the offense, and I think that showed what they've been working on and kind of was like, okay, this is what we want the identity to be. We want to use a lot of different pieces, and we want to be balanced. Yeah,
and it takes a little while, right? There's always this kind of grace period when you have a new staff, and you've got a new philosophy, you've got a new system, new players, right? Devon Vele, he was a training camp acquisition, all these different things that are happening where it takes time to gel. And I know that that's not kind of the fun thing to say because, we want to win games, right?
Yeah.
But it takes time. It just does. And it's hard. And the league is a hard league to win in, especially when there's so much turnover. So I think that they've found it. Listen, and just from Spencer Rattler's point of view and how he operated in the offense, and I know that there's all this, well, they should have done this sooner. And listen, Spencer Rattler completed 68% of his passes through 8 games. Like, you can look across the league and everybody's going to ask their quarterback to complete 65 or better, and he did that. 8 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So he allowed the offense to have some continuity where we're making a change because the turnover margin is just tremendously skewed on the offensive side. It's not that. It's just that we haven't been able to convert in the red zone, haven't been real good on third down so far, and now it's kind of all gelling. So I think that there has to be some praise still from for Spencer on that side of it, that it wasn't a necessarily sinking ship as an offense. There was just lacking some big plays. There was lacking some continuity in terms of third down and red zone, like we've talked about. So I think there were the bones of it were good when Tyler stepped into it, and I think now he's getting to put his spin on some things with his athleticism, with his youth. Again, some of the plays that he made. I know that the third down and 17. Again, they keep showing this play over and over again where he fits it into between two defenders. Now, it wasn't a first down, but it's a high-level throw. I mean, a big-time throw for a rookie quarterback. And so those things provide confidence going into the next week.
The next week is an off week, so you also have the opportunity to review some tape from the entire season and tweak some things. For the coaching staff, I'm sure that's what they'll be doing. For the players, since they don't have a Thursday night game, they don't have a chance to have one of those mini buys. This is it for them. And the coaching staff here is really going to give them that time off to rest, recover, and get away for a little bit. So it's always nice, I'm sure, as a former player, to go into a bye week off of a win.
Tremendous. You don't have kind of the looming, what's it going to be like when we get back? How's the attitude in the building going to be like when we get back? And so I think that that they've got a lot to look forward to over the next 7 or 8 weeks, and should feel good about where they're at. They seem to be ascending, and spirits, and they should be very confident. They played extremely well. Played a full game yesterday on all phases. Felt like they were a part of the win. It wasn't just the offense carried us or the defense carried us. It felt like everybody was a part of this win. And that gives a team a lot of confidence, like you said, in a bye week and then going forward.
Tyler Shough mentioned that the defense was the reason why they won the game. And you're going to give a hat tip to the other side. And I think and the defense did it right back because they were able to stay on the field more. You know, the offense was, which makes things easier for a defender to not have to be out there getting tired and getting worn on throughout the game. But if it wasn't for the first drive, the Panthers would not have scored. And it was Demario Davis had that interception, but then there was the roughing the passer penalty on Justin Reed. And you're like, oh, man. And you thought, okay, games pass. Like, is this just going to be another one of those games where things start to steamroll? And it didn't. And I think that says a lot about the defense. They came back together. They did not allow the Panthers to get into the end zone again. At all. And they really did hold them in check. And there was the interception later by Alontae Taylor, the fumble recovery by Pete Werner. They did a lot of good things that they have been building towards. And I think for the defense as well, I mean, they have to walk away really happy with their performance. Yeah.
And a lot of what happens, defenses talk about creating their own luck, right? So, like, turnovers aren't just happenstance. Sometimes they are, but from a defensive perspective, you have to create that opportunity for yourself, right? With consistent play, with being in the right spot. And then sometimes it comes from, manufacturing pressure with disguises, with overload blitzes, disguises in the, late rotations in the coverage, what have you. And then sometimes because you're better personnel-wise than the other team. I think that we're probably a mix of that. I don't think that across the board we're typically better. I think we have pieces that are better. I think obviously Demario is probably our most consistent, best player on defense. He's going to be tops in the league in tackles again this year, and so. But they have to believe that they're going to get turnovers. Part of the opportunity for a defense is, believing that we're going to be in the right spot, believing that we're going to get our hands on the ball, believing that we're going to get to the quarterback. And if we get to him 7 times in the game, we're going to sack him 3. And out of 3 of those times, we're going to knock the ball out once, right? And that's how they've got to believe and think. So you really lean on your veteran players to understand that creating your own luck comes from belief that I'm going to be in the right spot and I can make the play, right? The back end is pretty young on our defense, and so relying on Chase, relying on Cam, relying on Demario, relying on those guys that have done it for a while to understand how to how to create that luck, how to create that opportunity where you're going to get your hands on balls, because we've got to fix the turnover margin, right? We early in the season we've turned it over too much. We've not taken it away enough. Those two things are okay if they're equal, right? But when one's, when they're both going the opposite directions, that's again, it's the biggest stat, it's the biggest indicator of wins and losses in the NFL is your turnovers, right? And so fixing that opportunity, fixing that ability to get our hands on footballs from the defensive side of the equation is going to be a big deal going forward.
And we actually, for once, capitalized on one of the turnovers, the interception. We were able to go right back and score a touchdown off of that. So that's what you need to do, especially once you start being able to force those takeaways. And I hated it for Demario Davis because earlier this week he was wearing a shirt in the locker room that said takeaways. And on the back it said, I got 2. Because he's had 2 this season. And he said, I want to get the 3rd one because then I'll get a new shirt that says I got 3 and there's different colors associated with them. And when he jumped up and got that interception, I was like, he manifested this. But you're right. I think the other players saw his effort in that regard and they wanted, to help and make sure that they also were kind of forcing some takeaways, making things happen because they're seeing Demario do it every day in practice.
Creating your own luck. I firmly believe in that. I was around enough high-level defensive players, Derek Brooks and Simeon Rice, and some of those guys, John Lynch, Ronnie Barber, in that vaunted Tampa defense. I was around those guys enough to know that it's not just scheme. It's not just, a player's ability. I mean, you've kind of got to believe that Dave Campo, when I was a rookie in Cleveland years ago, Dave Campo was the DC on that team, and he used to say this all the time, that if as a DB, if you'll catch the ones that are thrown to you, you'll go to the Pro Bowl every year. And so it's understanding that, hey, there's going to be opportunities in the game where the ball is near me. I got to get my hands on it, and then I got to finish the play and intercept it or strip it, right, and recover the fumble, what have you. So I'm a firm believer in creating your own opportunity, creating your own luck from the defensive side of the ball and as far as takeovers go.
I was also impressed by the run defense. It's been another area, especially when you look back at that Rams game, that they've not always been solid in, not consistent in. Holding somebody like Rico Dowdle to just 53 rushing yards is a huge accomplishment. He's had multiple games over 200 rushing yards himself.
Yeah, he's been hot here the last 2 or 3 weeks, right? He's kind of been one of the names most talked about, whether he's a free agent or whatever. So yeah, I mean that was a position of focus for the defense, right? We've got to get better in the stopping the run. They're the bottom 3 of the league in rush defense, middle of the pack on third down, middle of the pack in turnover and passing defense. So they know the areas they've got to get better in. But you don't get better in all of them in one game, right? So you pick something and you go, hey, by gosh, we're not going to lose this game where they're running the football. If they throw it on us, fine, but we're going to stop the run. And I think that was a focal point for them yesterday, and they did a great job.
Definitely. Well, they have the bye next week, and then the schedule does get easier from here. There's the up and down Falcons that you have to see twice. Yep. You have the Miami Dolphins, Tennessee Titans, and then the Jets. You're going to see the Panthers again, going to have to see the Bucs again too. Yep. But the gauntlet that this team had to go through the first 10 weeks here, really, it does get easier. How do you think the Saints can really take advantage of that, especially coming off a performance like this against the Panthers?
Yeah, again, I think that they're going to be focused on being better in the red zone, right? Got to be better in the red zone. You can't survive in an NFL scoring only 15 points a game or averaging that anyways. It's just not – you've got to be better. So we were 0-2 yesterday. I think we were 1-2 in the Rams game. So you've got to be more consistent in how we score points. Turnovers, obviously, and then understand that it's never given to you, right? I know we talk about the Dolphins coming up. They beat the Bills yesterday, right? And so it's never given to you. You have to approach every week like it's the most important game, because it is, and it's the only game of the week, and there's no looking forward, and there's no looking backwards either, right? We can't feel ourselves good because we beat the Panthers. We can take those things. We can learn from them. We can take confidence from them. But we can't look back and go, well, it should work out next week because of what happened last week, right? We've got to go back to the drawing board. We've got to be better on third down in the weeks to come. Continue to be better on third down from the defensive side of the football. Take the ball away when we have the opportunities to, and then be consistent running the football. Help our young quarterback out, and make sure that's for the next 7 games. That's the identity. Right, and I think all along that's what Kellen wants to do, right? That's what he brought over from Philadelphia. It's what he wants to do. He wants to hang his hat on being able to turn around and count on Alvin and count on those guys to be 4 yards a pop, to be 4.5 yards a pop. We're sitting at 3.7, 3.8 right now. To be 4.5 yards, a rush is a big deal. It's like, well, it's a half a yard. It's a big half a yard. It helps a lot. So, I think that's what you'll see going forward, a really commitment to running the football. I think Tyler excels in the play action. I think he's really good that way because it allows depth. Obviously, the run action provides protection in and of itself because of the response of the defense, right? They have to see the fake and then get back and drop into their zones And so that in and of itself is part of the protection and part of the help for protection. So I think that provides some relief for him mentally. And then it provides space. A play action drop is typically deeper than obviously a normal drop back pass as far as the setup for the launch point for the quarterback behind the line. So that gives him the ability to use his athleticism now. If a free runner comes, right, guy gets beat inside, what have you, he gets to use his athleticism like we saw yesterday, and he's more than capable of getting out on the edge and making plays off script, as they say. So I think those will be keys for the Saints going forward, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I think from when we saw him in training camp and what we've seen the past 2 weeks, there's been a vast improvement in the way that he's making decisions. He seems to be moving a little bit quicker. Yeah. So you can tell that he's a very smart player.
Yeah. I think the coaching staff's done a fantastic job. We don't know if this was their plan all along. Hey, if we struggle as a team or if Spencer struggles, here's the point in the season where we would make a change. Some teams will have that kind of planned out. Hey, the bye week is week 7. That's where we're going to change or whatever it is. We don't know what it was, but I think they've done a great job in preparing him every week to be ready to go. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination he played poorly last week. Again, it's probably the best team in the NFL, right? And so and both games on the road. So I think he looked extremely well prepared to me yesterday. You didn't see his eyes kind of doing this. They weren't dropping down, looking at the rush. He seemed very definitive in where he wanted to go with the football and how to get there. And then when the play called for him to make a play with his athleticism, he did. And so, again, for him, it won't always be for the rest of the season about making the biggest play. As a rookie quarterback, it's about making the right play. Sometimes that means taking a sack and not throwing it into coverage, right? And then relying on a veteran defense to bail you out. Sometimes that's throwing the ball away and not trying to make extra plays, right? So much about making the right play and not always the best play. Coach Gruden used to say this all the time to me when I played for the Bucs. Sometimes the best play is the only play you can make, and that means throwing the ball away, or that means, you know what, I just got to eat this. We'll cut our losses and go on to the next play. But I think so far he's fared very, very well in most of those instances.
Well, I appreciate the insight. You're always the best person to go to when we are talking quarterbacks. So thank you so much for joining me, Luke. I appreciate it. And thank you for everybody for tuning into the New Orleans Saints podcast presented by Rouse's Markets.
Anytime.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Saints podcast presented by Rouse's Markets. Join us 3 times per week on NewOrleansSaints.com, the Saints mobile app, or you can download the podcast on iTunes. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets.